On this 102nd anniversary of Vimy Day, I call the April 9, 2019 regular meeting of Council to order. Item 2.1, adoption of the agenda, April 9, 2019. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor G, any additions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 3.1, public comment to be considered by Council as part of the approved agenda. Just a quick preamble. Must be on topics that are not normally dealt with village staff as a matter of routine, to be addressed through the chair and answers given likewise. Debates with or by individual members of council or staff are not allowed during this time. No commitments shall be made by council in replying to a question. Matters which may require an action of council shall be tabled to a future meeting of this council. Quite important that bylaws and temporary use permits, etc., that have been considered at a public hearing but have not yet been received for final approval shall not be raised during this time. Individuals must state their name and area of residence for identification purposes, and we will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker, which I will time. Are there any public comments? I see nil for public comments. Item 4.1, adoption of the minutes of the previous regular meeting of council, that the March 26, 2019 meeting of council be adopted as presented. The minutes, please. Councillor G, Councillor MacLean, any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. We do have a delegation with us this evening. Item 5.1 with Eugene Jamin, Dee McEachran, Rashmi Narayan of Council's Housing Committee. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for receiving our presentation today. My name is Rashmi Narayan, and I'm with Eugene Jamin and Dee McEachran, and we are from the Housing Committee. We are here to make a presentation to Council just to give you an update on what we've been doing, what we have learned, as well as talk about some of the next steps. And first, I'd like to give a little bit of background on just for new councillors as well as new staff. In 2015, Council approved the creation of the Housing Needs and Assessment Study. And at that point, one of the recommendations that was approved by Council as part of that study was engaging more community stakeholders to study housing. And as a result of that, the Housing Committee had its first meeting in January 2017. I just want to clarify, because there's this misconception, affordable housing is not social housing. Housing is considered affordable when all the costs related to housing, whether it's rent or mortgage, taxes, utilities even, as long as they stay under 30% of before tax income, that's when housing is considered affordable. In Valemount, this is from the Needs Study, Housing Needs and Assessment Study of 2016. Housing is not affordable to 95% of households, which is about 20%. And those numbers were based on 2011 census numbers. Since then, housing prices have gone up significantly, so I think it's probably worse than that. But we'll stick with that because that's what we have. The median income in Valemount is less than the rest of the province. So even though housing prices in Valemount seem affordable, it's still an issue for locals. And the single person in Valemount earns under $32,000, and that's actually a single income household in Valemount. That's about 41% of the households in Valemount. So it's pretty high. And the single parent in Valemount earns 24% less than the provincial counterpart. So it's quite a big issue. Couples fare better, or two-income households fare better at $73,000. One of the measures of housing affordability is the ratio of the housing price to the income. And it's gone up significantly from, between 20 2000 and 2016. That ratio is ideally should stay under 3, the housing price to the income. And again, 2016 numbers are saying 4.66 assessment. House prices have gone up a lot more than that. And I don't think income has kept up at that rate of 18%. So it is an issue. This impacts like professionals. It impacts young families who want to who we want to attract as well as retain in Valemount. Also issues related to staff housing and people working in the service industry. So the committee has done a lot of research. We've received presentations from many experts. Before we've considered making recommendations to council. Jack Keogh, he's from Yellowhead Community Services in Clearwater, and they are in the middle of developing low-income housing there. So he was talking about what they've gone through, as well as working with the municipality on land, zoning, DCCs, property taxes. Fernie councillor Angie Koalitsa, I'm not sure if she's still the councillor, but this was before the elections. She talked to us about issues in Fernie related to housing, and they tackled it by allowing secondary suites, homes, reducing parcel size, laneway houses, and also the OCP has a 15% affordable housing mandatory as part of any housing development. That's how it's in Fernie. So they're quite a small community, and that's why we chose to look at. I talked to planners in Fernie, other staff as well when we did that. Mark Brunton from CBT, I know he made a presentation to council about what we could do to receive funding and how to move forward. The most recent one was Gord Bergstrom from the BC Rural Centre. And he had produced this really informative report on how community land trusts and land leases can help reduce the cost of housing by removing the cost of land. And it's pretty significant. And I mean, if you look at land prices now, and Eugene will touch on that, it can be pretty significant and make housing affordable for people, knowing the income in Valemount. So, our zoning and bylaw committee looked at all the zoning all over town in terms of what the bylaws allow for lot sizes, dwelling size, primary and secondary uses. We wanted to make a lot of recommendations, but we limited ourselves to 3, and in terms of minimum parcel area, minimum floor size, and there's one more about dwellings and above commercial space. And for this, we talked to planners in Fernie as well as Nelson, and based our recommendations based on those conversations. I know that we haven't heard back on those recommendations, and hopefully there's some things happen on that in that area, because we feel housing can be tackled with multiple prongs, not just creating housing, but also allowing the private sector and people with larger lots to, create secondary homes or units or other ways. So I think some of these other recommendations can help with that. Short-term rentals, we feel that the current bylaws in place protect long-term rentals as well as the accommodation sector, and variances should be avoided. So what's in place is great, and we just hope council follows that and considers seriously before they make variances. And Nelson, Kelowna, as well as Tofino have policies on short-term rentals, which is worthwhile as we really become more a tourism destination. I mean, we are, but I think the short-term rental market with Airbnbs and stuff will take off only more, and it's better for us to be proactive on that and develop short-term rental policies. So that's it for now, and over to Eugene for continuing. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Oh, you're going to do the clicker?
Yeah.
No, yes, she is.
Okay. Okay. Really interesting is more than half the land in Valemount is vacant or undeveloped, but this only occupies 15% of the parcels that are available. Also, we've had a huge jump in increase in price in lots. A vacant lot, 32,000, now is selling for 78,000. Huge, huge jump. Next slide. What can be done? One possibility is the use of land trusts and land leases. That means somebody else owns the land so that you're only paying for the construction of your home. There's a trade-off in that there is a restricted resale agreement which spells out the parameters of what you would take away, what your takeaway would be when you sell your home. This would benefit people making less than $60,000 a year. When we go to the people who are making less than $30,000, what we're looking at is higher density has to happen to make it affordable. Next slide. To get answers on how this can happen, 3 events have taken to date. First, there was a survey sent out. The results have come back in. We have had 129 responses to that survey, which is a good response. I can remember way back, 6 to 8% was considered a good response. So we're up around 12% response for the village of Valemount. It is now figuring out what they tell us. In January, we had a meeting. Questions were fielded, and what work was being done was addressed. Tables housed different groups wanting to address this housing shortage. Then in February, people who have interest in what happens as far as housing were able to design with scale blocks what development might look like. This was attempting to address all the areas of concerns, from tiny houses to apartments to seniors housing, townhouses, even daycare was brought up. And then that end, we're still waiting for the final report from the people who, Radloff. And the last slide for me, from the surveys, we were able to find that 80% of those who answered the survey wanted to own their own homes rather than rent. Most people wanted an unattached home and the size to be 2 to 3 bedrooms. This is very broad statistics. We are looking at trying to, what are the most pertinent needs, where are the highest needs, and it means that we need to draw from, if people answer to this question, what was the response to this question? And that data pulling is what's happening now. So next to D.
So you have been very supportive of over the last number of years, and we really appreciate that. With the needs and assessment study of 2015, then the establishment of this housing committee in 2017, the staff resources of the EDO, Silvio Gislambardi, really appreciated his help and his work and his time. Megan Vicente has also helped us, and we've had wonderful resource with Hollie Blanchette from the council, so we've appreciated that. And and Peter Reimer was also did get involved in that as well, and appreciated his input. So now what we had asked you to do was to give us land in principle to look at. And so we did do that with the Radloff group. We looked at 3 properties in the village and came up with the one being best suited because it was the cheapest to to get roads and sewer and et cetera into the infrastructure was the one on Ash by just south of the high school. So we also were able to do that with the reallocation of unspent funds from the boundary extension study, which was approximately $9,000. So now, our next steps. We need to finalize the current needs for with the housing survey that has happened. And at the same time, I am also part of the Valemount Senior Citizens Housing, and we have also done a survey specifically because we were looking at the fact that there are people that are wanting into the Golden Years Lodge that are not fit to come in, because that's one of the contentions. They see home care going in there every day, and with home care going in there, well, it must be a care facility of sorts. Well, initially the people were well and able-bodied people, but they have been aging in place, and so it was just important for us to then look at our own facilities. So we're doing some strategic planning on our building about what we can do there. And we know that we are limited with what we can do because of the age of the building. And so that is one of our concerns. So that we hope that in this new project that we're going to be doing, that we will be looking at specifically seniors housing and perhaps assisted living, a new building for such a venture. So what we need you to do, what could you help us with? I believe that our committee would really like to stay intact and carry on. We need it as an umbrella group for the stakeholders that are already contributing. So the Senior Citizens Housing Committee being one of those, our society, and the new VARS group. Also, I don't think there's any other group at this point in time, but we need an umbrella, and we were feeling that this group, our village affordable housing group, has been that umbrella. Even though we would, I think, it may become another entity at some point, because we've talked about cooperatives, we've talked about housing authorities, we've talked about another overall society, but we are not at that point, and we are trusting in you to also look at what that possibility might be. So basically what we're needing is just for your okay for us to continue to seek funding for the project development phase, which would be our next phase. We have the possibility of doing it through several funding institutes or trusts, the NDIT, CMHC, CBT are all places that we can seek funding. Is there anything else that, other than if you have any questions of us?
Motion, please, to receive the delegation. Councillor G, Councillor Pearson, questions for the delegation? Comments? Councillor Blanchette.
I just want to thank you. This is a volunteer-based group, and they work very hard. And this is not an easy committee to be on because we all want housing. So I just want to commend everybody for being on this committee, and thank you very much.
Thanks, appreciate it.
What is the timeline for Mr. Adamson's synopsis? Anybody, either the expertise and staff or?
Be very open. I'm just waiting for the month of March invoice, and based on that invoice, Lori will let me know exactly how much money is left in that account, and then we will ask for completion of summary report for the survey, the charrette meeting, and also the site location identification. So I think by April, end of April, we should have all those reports, and then of course then we'll present it to council.
Other questions? Well, I sure do appreciate the work that this committee is doing. I applaud your terms of reference and the broad representation that is part of the committee. May not see eye to eye every single meeting, but it's something that's important to this council, and we look forward to as much support as we can give you in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
It's my neighbor. All in favor of receipt of the delegation? Carried. We have some correspondence for action from the District of Kitimat under 7.1. They're requesting a letter of support, and they're asking that we write the province to finalize and implement a graduated licensing program for motorcycles, including power restrictions and mandatory training. Motion, please. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of letter of support? I'll get on that right away. Does anybody want to pull anything out of the reading file? Item 9.1, we have a report for February, March 2019 for the building permit values. Motion receipt, please. Councillor Pearson, Councillor G. Comments, questions?
It's busy and it's, almost.
The trends do say that it is construction season.
Yeah.
All in favor of receipt? Carried. Under 9.2, local government infrastructure planning grant program, we have a recommendation that staff be directed to apply to the BC Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development Local Government Infrastructure Planning Grant Program. Councillor Pearson, Councillor MacLean, any comments or questions for staff? Infrastructure planning, playgrounds?
Endless.
Pardon?
It's endless what we could do.
Yeah. Yes. That's awesome. Yeah. But when's the last time the risk assessment's been done on that?
2011.
2011? Thanks. All in favor to approve that grant application. Carried. Item 9.3, we have a Columbia Basin Trust Community Outdoor Revitalization Grant, and that staff be directed to apply for said grant. Councillor Pearson, Councillor MacLean, comments, questions? Councillor Blanchette?
It's badly needed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is so. All in favor? Carried. We have a request for use under 9.4 of our airport, and they're looking, the Soaring Club on July 3 and through to July 11, 2019, be approved subject to the club providing sufficient liability insurance and participant waivers prior to the event. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion? Yes.
I think this has been an ongoing, they've used in previous years, and so,
Yeah, they really have. It's nice seeing some recreational use.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
quite the thing to see too when they're up there, so.
It is pretty fun. Well, perhaps we can take some time out of our busy schedules and go and have a boo. All in favor? Carried. We have been challenged in 9.5 to participate in the 100 Radon Test Kit Challenge, and staff are asking that participation be approved by council. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion. Councillor Pearson.
I think this is a great opportunity. I know this is some, I took part in Prince George's radon testing, and so I think it's going to be a very valuable learning for the community, so.
You think we can get some heat maps from the stats to see where, if there's a concentration in one area or another?
My understanding is the information they give back is not specific. It's actually given, the specific information is given to the homeowner.
Gotcha.
And then what the village is given is more of a broad consensus of whether or not radon is available in the community, in the area where the pockets would be, yes. But they won't identify the property.
Yeah, okay. Not specifically, but I was thinking more so north or west or east.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. Any other discussion points, Councillor Blanchette?
We did this because my husband's man cave is in the basement. And it does take a while, like you don't just do it overnight. There is a process to it. So I would encourage everybody to get involved in this, and this is a great thing for us.
And we did it a couple of years ago as well.
Yeah.
The regional district was involved with that.
Okay.
Other discussion points? Hearing none, all in favor? The challenge is on. Carried. 9.6, Accounts Payable Report, March 2019. A motion of receipt, please. Councillor G, Councillor MacLean. Any discussion points around the accounts payable? There was a paving reimbursement. Was that for Tim's? 16,000?
That was for the log building across from the Super 8.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments under receipt? All in favor? Carried. 9.7, Province of British Columbia has bestowed a Northern Capital and Planning Grant in our care to the tune of 2.883 million. And staff are asking that the Director of Finance be directed to invest a full Northern Capital and Planning Grant amount into the Municipal Finance Authority of BC Pooled Investment Fund for now. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Blanchette, discussion. What's the rate of return on that? Anybody know?
It's 1.76%.
1.76. Why so low?
It's so that we can, it's so that we would be able to pull it out if an emergency happened.
Okay. Good. All in favor? Carried. 9.8, implementation of fee for open air burning permits. We have a recommendation here, one of two recommendations, that staff be directed to amend fees and charges bylaw number 699/2013 to allow the village to charge $30 per burning permit valid up to 30 days with a separate charge of $100 per burning permit for debris piles exceeding 1 cubic meter land clearing, for example, which is valid for 60 days, or that this report be received and filed. What's council's wish? Councillor Blanchette?
I'll move number 1.
Number 1, seconder please. Councillor G. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. Oh, Councillor Blanchette.
Anything that helps, keep the air as best as we can, and this will help. It's something small, but it's a help.
And we are still within the regulations of the province as well, so venting and things of that nature. Further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Item 9.9, we have an ask report to be received for affordable housing projects. Motion, please. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson. Discussion on the report. All in favor of receipt? Carried. Item 10.1, Village of Valemount Bylaw number 799, 2019. Recommendation here that the Village of Valemount Building Bylaw 2003 Amendment Bylaw 799, 2019 be adopted. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, discussion on final adoption. All in favor? Carried. Item 10.2, Village of Valemount Bylaw number 800, 2019, that the Village of Valemount Emergency Program Regulatory Bylaw number 757, 2016, Amendment Bylaw number 800, 2019, be given first, second, and third reading. Councillor G, Councillor Blanchette, discussion on first, second, and or third reading. Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Item 10.3, policy number 58. Staff are looking for an amendment within that policy, and that the amendment be approved. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor MacLean, discussion on the amendment on that policy 58. Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. And item 11.1, councillor reports. Councillor MacLean.
On March 29th, I participated in a telecon with the Columbia River Treaty Local Governments Committee. And on April the 8th, I attended the Columbia Region Fish and Wildlife Compensation Program workshop here in Valemount at the Community Hall. The Fish and Wildlife Compensation Program compensates for fish and wildlife in watersheds impacted by BC hydro dams. Grant funding is available for local governments or groups to apply for projects that will maintain or improve the status of species or ecosystems of concern, and or maintain or improve the integrity and productivity of ecosystems and habitats. For more information, you can visit their website at http://fwcp.ca. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've, for your information, I've reached out to regional staff to see what kind of funding we can muster, perhaps even a collaborative approach to their village and regional district. Councillor Blanchette.
I just had a light couple of weeks, so I had our housing meeting on March 28th. And again, I just want to reiterate that this is a really tough committee to be on, just because we need the housing so badly and everybody's working so hard and the ideas are just flowing, and it's a really good committee to be a part of. And I just want to thank council for putting me on there, and thank the people that are on that committee for putting up with me. And we can all be challenging, but that's what brings out the good ideas. So I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for the support for council too and staff. Yeah.
Councillor Pearson.
April 2nd, had a conference call with the Operation Lifesaver Committee. It was kind of a meet for the 3 new members from community representation. And so we had good discussion. A lot of it's leading up to Operation Lifesavers Train Safety Week in September. But I am looking to see if we can get an Operation Lifesaver table brought in for Vail Mountain Days to do with their safety night and for the day on Saturday. So
It's a great idea.
Also April 2nd, Tourism Valemount meeting. April 5th, Edmonton, the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association, AGM in Edmonton. Biggest thing coming from that is similar concerns across the 4 western provinces as far as highway safety, twinning, passing lanes, and the cell service comes up fairly frequently. And I will note that the new East Gate at Jasper Park, if you travel through, is streamlined. It has a through lane for people that don't need passes, and that was a lot to do with lobbying from the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association. And yeah, they had stats on what it is in time and dollar savings for having that through route for trucks and stuff. It's pretty amazing. So And also congratulations to past president of the Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association, Sandy Salt, for being presented an award for her service to the association as well.
Very cool.
On April 8th, yesterday, I also attended the Fish and Wildlife Compensation Program, technical workshop they call it. Very interesting information, and it was interesting to note that their boundaries go a little further than what we're used to with the Columbia Basin idea, and they have a wildlife extension area that covers right up to the Morkill on the other side of McBride for wildlife rehabilitation and projects. So, and that was my 2 weeks.
Right on. Councillor G?
I don't have my date book, so I didn't write down the date, but I attended the final meeting of the CBT Adjudication Committee, just did our wrap up and kind of discussed what worked well, recommendations for changes for next year's committee on different things. And then I attended Alice Olson's 96th birthday party. It was really well attended. She had 5 Mounties in Red Surge. She had a presentation from yes, thank you, Bob Zimmer and Shirley Bond were there, and it was really nice seeing Councillor Pearson in his serving attire. And that was my 2 weeks.
Sorry I wasn't able to make it to Mrs. Olson's celebration. March 28th, I had a conference call with Mr. Robinson and Joel from Guestel regarding potential telecommunications improvements. The Mayor's Caucus, thank you, Council, for supporting my attendance there on April 1 and 2. Some really cool things coming out of that. It wasn't as well attended as some of the colleagues would have hoped, but it was a bit last minute. There wasn't a whole lot of leeway on planning there. We'll be reviewing the guidelines. I'd like to call them a terms of reference, but they're not quite. I think they're at this stage guidelines, and we will be presenting a singular idea to the province at UBCM this year to do with revenue sharing. Then back, down to Invermere, where that morning of the 4th, I called in to the Debris Management Committee, Joint Committee of Golden and Valemount for Kimbasket Reservoir. Those folks are just doing some incredible work. We're looking at, as always, a multi-year plan, but the comptroller this year has approved a single-year plan for debris management. And then further down, Highway 95 and Highway 3 to Sparwood for an orientation with the Columbia Basin Trust Board, and 2 days of meetings there. Back here, sitting before you now. Motion to receive council reports. Councillor Pearson, Councillor MacLean, any questions of the reporting? Hearing none, all in favor of receipt? Does anybody wish to bring anything out of the calendar of events, April and May? And we have a motion, please, for 14.1 to proceed in camera under section 91A of the Community Charter to discuss matters related to A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, or another person appointed by the municipality. Motion, please. Councillor Pearson, Councillor G, all in favor? Carried. And we will proceed in camera.